Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Sage 50 Cloud Pastel Accounting topic webinar. My name is Joanne Barnard, and I will be your panelist and host for the session. Today, what we are going to be discussing and demonstrating is how to correctly transfer funds when using Sage Pastel Partner as well as Sage Pastel Xpress. They are very different, and it has to do with whether you have a transfer account or not. The functionality for that is only available in Partner, but this is to ensure that your bank recons do not have a problem because of direct processing. So as you can see, I've opened up Partner, and if I go and open my test company, if we had to go to our cash book, you will see that there's a transfer button. Now, the transfer button is only available when using Partner. If this button is grayed out, it's because you have not set up a transfer account, and you can do that by going to Setup and going to your company parameters. Once you've entered your password and no one else is logged into the company and you have no other windows open, otherwise you're going to get the message sole access mode needed, you will then come to your settings. On your settings, this is where you can select whether you want separate numbers, one set of numbers. You can put an encryption on your password. You can force strong passwords. You can set up your domestic reverse charge tax, as well as setting up and setting the transfer account. So for example, in this situation, I have used the account 9300, which we've called bank transfer. This has been set to balance sheet and to accounts receivable, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry guys, I was in the setup, so there are certain screens in the setup that don't always show, but you will need to make sure that you have set up your transfer account. This account at the end of the day should always be zero, because the money goes in and out. So balance sheet, it's set to accounts receivable. You can put it to accounts payable, but it does need to be a balance sheet account. It basically is going to work like a suspense account. So it's an account where the debits and the credits immediately go in and out. So it's an in and out transaction. This should always be zero unless you process directly to this account, in which case your accountants would need to advise you on what to do. Once you've set that, as I said, you would go to Setup, Company Parameters, you would go to the Settings tab, and you would then select that account under the Bank Transfer or Transfer Account. Once that is set up, if you then had to actually go into your bank, what a lot of people invariably do, and I'm not 100% sure what I've done, my screen is so tinky tiny, but a lot of people do not actually transfer using the transfer button. What a lot of people do is they will use the actual cash book account. So for example, I should have 3 bank accounts. So I've got my national bank and my international bank. So what a lot of people would do is they would select the bank account. Now here it will tell you, please don't do this. But as we know, if you're busy, a lot of the time you just click on OK and it may allow the transaction through. So in this instance, the correct way to do this is, depending on which side of the bank you are on, if you're on payments, it's going to pay out. If you're on receipts, it will transfer to. And basically, yeah, they might have changed this. I do apologize. I haven't been in 50 for a little while. But basically, you click your transfer, and you should always be in the cash book, obviously, that you're transferring from. You select the bank account that you want to transfer to, and then you give it a reference. So for example, okay, yeah, I know, but let's just do June 24, and we can then go to June. We can put our description and go transfer for salaries or whatever it is, wherever you're transferring, and you would then enter the amount. What this will do in this case, because I am using multi-currency, you will see that it's using the exchange rate and it's transferring in dollars for me. But irrespective, you will see the amount from and to. If you are using multi-currency, which is why I'm using this example, it should look as follows. It should not be identical if the one bank is in rands and the other bank is in dollars. So that will use the exchange rate, otherwise they'll be identical. And if you say process, what this then does is it transfers from the one to the other. If we then say yes, and we had to actually go and view our, process bank recons. And we had to view this for June. You would put your statement balance. We should then see our options. If we are not seeing the different options, so here what we're looking for is our transfer of 50,000. You then select your options and your bank should balance. Likewise, if we go back, you also want to see that on your international bank. And you want to see, in this case, it will be in the dollars, but you want to see that on the receipt side. So what happens is if you actually transfer or do a direct transfer from one to the other, what happens is that, yes, the cash book that you process in will show the transaction, but the cash book that you are processing to. So here, for example, you're making a payment from 8400 to 8410. What'll happen is it'll show in your 8400, but when you go to reconcile in the 8410, the balance on the general ledger will be out by that transfer. And although the transfer will show on your statements in the bank, it is not showing on your bank recon. So that is why you need to use that transfer option. Likewise, if we are talking about Express, now Express works differently because Express does not have the transfer button. So with Express, it takes slightly longer for us to actually transfer the money from the one to the other. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to open our test company and we can see that we're in Express. And here, if we go to our cash book, we'll notice there is no transfer at all. That feature is not available. So in this instance, again, you can go and create your general ledger account and you can create it in exactly the same way. So going to click on add. Balance sheet. And as I said, I always put it to account receivable. Please do not select bank. If you select bank, it's going to turn this into a cash book account. So account receivable, and we're going to click on save. When processing then, this is where we are going to actually process to that specific general ledger account. So to the 9300, so let me just change that to June's date. And we can put in our, or whatever to standard bank, whatever makes sense. And we can enter the amount. And then we're going to update this transaction. Now, at this point, all that's happened is we've paid to that account. Here, we would then need to, sorry, I thought that I had multiple bank accounts. I just quickly need to go create one. So if anyone is unsure what selecting bank does, you're about to learn. But you need to do the other level of the other side of the transaction. So here, for example, 410, just go. And then again, balance and bank. The moment you click on save, it's going to ask you if you want to create this. When you say yes, what this does is this actually goes and it creates your entry types on your behalf. So before we allow this functionality, you would have to come and link them here and link that account. But if we go down, we'll see that it's actually done that for us. So everything is set up and that cash book is set up. So creating cash books is very quick and easy. But as I said, to now receive that money, so I paid 30,000 from my 8400. Now I'm going to need to go into my 8410, and this time I'm going to need to go to the receipt side. Again, here I'm going to select that same account, my 9300. I can put in the same. I can say that it's a, for example, and I'm going to receive the 30,000. Now I'm going to leave this here because this will show in your bank recon, but I will delete it. Sorry, that's meant to be FNB. Oh, okay. So if we had to now go and look, because you can also do your recon before you update the transactions in your cash book to make sure that your cash book is in fact balancing. But here, for example, I can see the values. If I say next, I should see my transfer and it's on the payment side. And if we go back and I select the standard bank, here I can see my transfer on the receipt side. Now, if we did not do that, or if we transferred directly between the two cash books, that would not happen. So here, for example, if you don't do the other side of the transaction, this will not show in your bank recon. Likewise, I just want to actually do. Now we are transferring directly from 8410 to 8400. I'm just going to do 3,000 And if I go update, I want you to see what's actually going to happen in your reconciliation. I also want to show you how the reports are going to look. So in this instance, if we had to go to the bank reconciliation, and we now want to reconcile our main check accounts, and we say next, you can see that that 3,000 does not show anywhere here. So we are going to have a difference of 3,000. There's going to be a major issue with regards to that amount. That is always going to show the difference because I cannot reconcile it here. If, however, I go back, the account that I use to process the payment from or the receipt, whichever account you use, here you will see the 3,000. So here we're like, look, it's in my one bank, it's not in the other. Now, to know if you've processed or you've done what we call direct processing, you go to View, General Ledger, Transactions, Ledger by Entry Type. And this can be incredibly helpful because this is where we are going to see what happens. So, for example, we know that the bank account that isn't showing is our 8400. Now, the best way to check this is to put basically your payments there, and to put your receipts. So this is my cash book 2. This is not my actual 8400. This is my 8410. Now, if I do that, and I can run it for the whole year and go, okay, and the report generates, this immediately shows me that this is direct processing. Because when you actually run this report, the only transaction type that you should see is RCB1 and RCB, so the payments and the receipts, because that is the cash book associated with our general ledger. If there's any other description or any other entry type associated, whether it is sales, whether it is your cash book 2, that is where you know that you've done direct processing and you will need to reverse those transactions. Now, in this instance, I can only see the generated entry. If that is a problem and you actually want to see the specific transactions, you need to take contra in detail on the entry types, because if you do not select that, all that it's going to do is show you generated entries. You can, however, if that was not selected at time of process, you can go to View, General Ledger, Transactions, Cash Book Details. Once you've done the cash book details, you then again would select the cash books themselves and you can go and have a look. So here, if I had to search my 8400 and I had to search that for June, and I had to say, okay, I'm not going to see the transaction for the 3,000 because only transactions that were processed in the cash book that you are viewing will show here. So that you processed in that cash book screen. So if we had to rerun that, you'll see that it will show it for me on the 8410. And guys, I'm sure that you can see this causes a lot of issues. Now, obviously, we need to know what happened here. So once we can find the transaction, this is where we can reverse the transaction so that this becomes 0. So you're going to use the same date, the same account, the same reference number. So in this instance, once it opens up my cash book, I'm going to go to the same cash book, the same side of the cash book. And here I can actually say reversal. And here I'm going to put negative 3,000 because I want to reverse this out. because I need my bank recon to balance. Click on update. And I can update accordingly. If I now rerun this, you can see it's now showing as 0 because it's consolidated the entry. So this is now no longer causing a problem. Even on my bank recon, it's come in and it's gone out, making it 0. And this is where you would then process correctly using that bank transfer. Now you can also do that in Partner. Guys, the reason I've given you all of this information in Express is because, as we said, in Express, the bank does not have the transfer option. While we do see these issues in Partner as well, it's far easier to control knowing that you just click on transfer, whereas in Express, you have to process the payment side to that bank transfer account. Then you need to go into the cash book that is receiving the money and process the receipt side, again, from the bank transfer. So you pay it into the bank transfer, and then you receive it from the bank transfer. So it's an in and out, and that bank transfer account will always be 0. In this way, you will see the transactions correctly on your entry type reports, as well as on your bank recon and in your cash book details. Does anyone have any questions with regards to transferring the difference between Express and Partner, and anything that you need me to explain again or go into more detail? Anywhere where I might have lost you, please type it through using the question icon now so that I can answer those questions. Thank you. Hey guys, while I'm waiting for questions, because I do just want to give it a couple more minutes just to see if there's anything on this specific topic. Please note that the next webinar that we will be running will happen on the 11th of July, and this will be explaining the Sage chatbot. So when you come to the chat option, sorry, not the help option, the chat option, normally what happens is the live chat will open. And what it does is it sends you to the chat bot first. So you can click on certain of the topics or whatever it is, but some people want to directly go to chat. So I'm going to explain to you what the purpose is here, how you click on the different things, and if you do want to go through to the chat, how you can go through to the chat. So that is what we're going to be discussing on the 11th of July. And then on the 25th of July, we will be having a session with tips and tricks on how to correctly store your company data. So there's going to be a number of tips and tricks, different ways that you can do this, and to make sure that your data is safe and secure. So we will talk about third-party places that you can go and sign up for. We're going to talk about cloud, and we're going to talk about flash drives and hard drives. So that's what that is going to be about. Tomorrow you should receive an email thanking you for attending the session. Once it's thanked you for attending the session, you should receive an email. On the email there will be a link, and that link will allow you to please email or please respond on what you would like to see in future webinars, so certain topics that you may wish me to run. It will also ask you to please rate the webinar, whether you found it useful, whether you didn't find it useful, that type of thing. And you can please fill that in, guys. It lets us know what we're doing right. It also lets us know what we're doing wrong, where I can improve and what I can do better. And so that you will get tomorrow. And then if you need to sign up for any of the future webinars, please remember that you can go to the Community Hub. So communityhub.sage.com/ZA. If you want the online version, it's Sage Accounting. Today we did Sage 50 Cloud Pastel, which is Partner and Xpress. And normally you can then click on free webinar. So it normally comes up free webinar and it will tell you what it's about. If you click on that, you can then click by register now by clicking here. Please note that even if you go into an old free webinar from this year, the link to sign up does not change. All that changes is extra dates will be added. You can select the date for the topic that you wish to attend, so check the topics. And you then need to enter your name, surname, and email address. You would need to do this for each and every session that you wish to attend. But guys, as I said, I would prefer if you tell me what topics you would like me to run instead of me just coming up with things, because these free webinars are to assist you to understand the program and see how it works the best. At this point, what we're doing is we are seeing why people are calling into the call center and what our demand drivers look like, because we're trying to see if we can help people to understand what those demand drivers are, give you resources to actually find solutions to those demand drivers, and then we can minimize them accordingly. But if there is something specific, a process or an issue you are having with the system and you would like me to create a webinar around that, if it's possible, I will then do that for you. Either myself or one of the other specialists will then run the session. So guys, I didn't see any questions with regards to transfers between cashbooks. So I'm assuming that that was all very clear. We know what to do in Partner. We know what to do in Xpress. We know what's important. The reporting side of things is the same, whether it's Partner or Xpress. So those are ways that you can go and check. And I'm assuming that everyone is confident. This is now the time where you can tell me if you have any other questions with regards to Pastel. Is there something else that you need assistance with? If I can provide assistance, I will. If you need to reach out to support, I will let you know. But please send your question through now. I'm going to give us about 3 minutes. If nothing comes through, I then will end the session accordingly. So guys, if you do have a question, please click the raise hand icon so that I know that I'm waiting for a question first, and then type your question through. If you're in the middle of typing your question, don't worry, you do have 3 minutes to send it through. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I'm not seeing any raised hands or any questions at this point. So basically, that is it for the session then. I know it was a pretty quick session. As advised, I do try to keep them to about 30 minutes and then have some time that you can ask questions if there are any. So I do hope that you all found this informative, that you've learned something through this. And I do look forward to your feedback and any further webinar suggestions that you have. Otherwise, have a fantastic day, have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you at future sessions. Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.